I just got back from the GUKBT in Bolton, which ultimately ended in disappointment. It made me think back and realise that all my big results so far have got one big thing in common, and that's that they've all been followed by a fairly swift and crushing blow. The one I'll always remember came after the first Vic final a couple of years ago when I went to Bristol for a side event a couple of days later and lost almost all my chips in a hand where I had a straight on a 3-spade board, but was pretty sure the guy had 2 pairs, so I made a big value bet. The guy also thought he had 2 pairs, but didn't realise that he also had a flush with it. He thought for ages, eventually called and I lost the hand because he decided to show his hand in frustration, his 2 pair, but of course his hand counted and the flush stood and he won the hand. My exit in Bolton wasn't anywhere near as comical, but was still a pretty gutting blow. But it's two-sided, it brings you back down to earth pretty quickly, but it also makes you realise that what happened 10 days before in Helsinki was both very lucky and very unusual, and it made me feel happier about that. It was a really fun day in Bolton actually, and I was able to play pretty aggressively on a kind of solid but passive table. And 2 hands brought about my exit where I was going to say really there wasn't too much to them. They're unfortunate, the last hands, but they often are. That's why they're called the last hands. So I was going to say there wasn't too much to the whole thing, and then I thought back and realised actually there was everything to it. And I think in almost every poker tournament there is so much to it. Even if it's just that one hand which wasn't a massive mistake, but you maybe could have played better, it could have made a big difference. And my interesting hand, which came in the 4th level, I think definitely could have made a big difference. It came against Priam Demel, who just sat down at the table. He's a really good, young, aggressive player. And he opened under the gun to 800. I've got kings in the small blinds, which obviously I was loving, and so 3-bet to 2400. And it came back to him and was well aware that he knew that I knew he'd just sat down and we're both aggressive and might not believe each other. And so he actually almost instantly 4-bet to 5400. It left him 14.5k behind. I had his 20k stack covered. So he came out to me and I had a lot of thinking to do. And this is a spot where I feel tons of poker players make a really bad mistake of logic, because I think he goes something like, I don't think he's got aces, which most of the time actually means I hope he hasn't got aces. I've got kings, it's the best hand, therefore I'm all in. Well, first of all, I think it's better to think there's not enough of a chance he's got aces for me to think about passing this hand, whether that be before the flop or on it. So I'm going to treat kings as the nuts. But if you treat kings as the nuts, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to move all in. The other big option, of course, is to flat call out of position as a trap. In this spot, then there would already be 11k in the middle and only a 14.5k effective stack. So your opponent will have to hang themselves on a lot of flops, or if they've got a bluff, obviously continue their bluff, or maybe hit top pair or something with their bluff and hang themselves again. So which was the better option against Priam, given that you can almost make aces irrelevant to the hand because you're going to have to lose your chips against them either way. So it's one of these spots where actually I think the right thing to do is just pinpoint your read on a hand like queens and almost act as if your opponent's got pocket queens, even though you're far from sure that they do, because a hand like aces you can it's kind of irrelevant to your thinking. And so it becomes a question of which is more likely of the two, that he has pocket queens and that he'll find a good pass before the flop, which I think with some opponents is impossible. With Priam definitely was possible because he's definitely a very good player. Or that he has pocket queens and your plan will go wrong the other way round, and that you're flat and one of 3 bad cards will come on the flop. A queen obviously is a very bad card, a king is a bad card because it will slow the action, and an ace possibly even worse than the king because it's definitely going to kill the action. And I think really I should have judged that there must be like a 40% chance of a queen, king or ace coming, and that was probably less than the chance of him finding a good pass. So I think I really took the wimpy option in doing what I did and moving all in. He eventually passed after a while and claimed queens, which not necessarily true, but kind of could well be true. And I think that the much braver option would be to take a risk, and it is a risk, of flat calling out of position and hoping that he has to hang himself for the rest of the chips. Anyway, that hand might have made a difference to my stack. Also, winner of the GUKBT Bolton 2 days later, Priam. So it's so weird to think back and think that in a poker tournament, then all of these decisions, all of these borderline decisions can make such a difference. So that was Bolton. It was fun anyway. Apart from that, then actually this kind of quiet period continues because there's nothing for a couple of weeks before EPT Copenhagen in 2 weeks' time, which I really look forward to. And then the GUKBT will come back to Warsaw. I managed to send the money off to the Haiti from the Helsinki resort, which felt nice to be able to do, but was rewarded by my bank managing to block my card for a day. It's probably the most comical of all the weird things that they've done so far. The reason was that it's suspicious payments, and it left me wanting to ask, are there many people that steal people's credit card details so that they can then send money to charity, some kind of modern day Robin Hood or something? But anyway, there's tons of tales I could tell about the silly bank. There'll be more tales about poker coming up soon. Before Copenhagen, I might go to Paris. There's a kind of 2K Euro side event, which should be good. But more poker coming up soon, and hopefully some more good news. Okay.